Episode 1 is over, I assume. Anyway, usually I wait until the last day to drop this kind of video because I don't know what last-minute surprises Bungie might have in store, but considering that the episodes are supposed to be completely independent experiences that don't lead into one another, I'm guessing we're done? Although, I think there's still a secret triumph in the game, but historically the last-minute stuff hasn't really pushed the needle, on my opinion, on a content drop. Story. Act 1 involves the first discovery of an echo, which is a thing that spawned from the destruction of the Witness. One of these things lands on Nessus and starts to reshape the planet itself. We link up with Failsafe again to find out what's kind of going on with this. Act 1 ends with Saint being hypnotized by the conductor, who basically tells him that he's just a copy of a copy from a different timeline. You're not the real Saint. You're not my real dad. You're fake. And Saint gets all emo about it. We eventually snap him out of it after he has a little crisis of his own and is eventually like, I'm cool with it. It's fine. This is a good chunk of Act 2 as well, Saint realizing that it's okay to be what he is, and it's also when the villain is actually revealed, Maya Sundaresh. Leading into Act 3, her motivation is to essentially force a new golden age through the use of the Echo of Command, while also trying to get her wife Chioma back by hunting down copies of her and finding which one is perfect for her, Maya. She's looking for a copy that just has complete blind faith in her ability to bring this new golden age, which, spoilers, that Chioma doesn't exist. She does this through a series of questions that she asks to each Chioma copy, and if she doesn't like what she hears, then she wipes her memories. A final confrontation with Maya results in us basically saying, nuh-uh, after she tries to control us with the Echo or whatever she does. Then Ikora throws a Nova Bomb at her face, and she melts into the radial area, saying, this isn't over yet. A side story is happening in the background with Failsafe, where we are collecting different samples of things on Nessus in order to study the effects of the Echo and the transformation that Nessus is going through during Episode 1. This usually amounted to some kind of busy work, killing Vex, find some materials, stuff like that. Failsafe was also a part of the main story. I don't want to make it seem like she was only a side character in Episode 1, because she was pretty prominent throughout the entire thing. Reporting live, we interrupt this yapping for some sponsored yapping. This video is brought to you by Manscaped. Have you ever thought, man, you know what's missing from this shaving experience? 100% more opulence. No. Okay. You thought. Introducing the Manscaped Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra, but now it's in gold. Anything else different about it? No, you still got the skin-safe trimmer for a smooth shaving experience, the foil attachment blade for an even smoother finish, all the add-ons and the goodies, but it's gold now, so that's pretty neat. Do rich people use gold-plated bathroom devices? I don't know. Probably. But like, you're gonna drop in with a gold razor and your friend's gonna be like, a gold razor? I didn't know you were doing that well. So if you are doing that well, head on over to manscaped.com and use code Datto to get 20% off and free international shipping. That's manscaped.com, code Datto, 20% off, free shipping. You know the drill. Thank you very much to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. The giant gaps in between acts did make it a little bit tough to remember certain things, and I think that problem may get worse with the lack of time gate on this content going forward. Starting in Episode 2, Bungie is no longer time gating the content between acts. So, all of Act 1, you could play it in a day if you really want to. I had trouble remembering what exactly happened in Act 2. I had to go back and review some footage. I might do act recaps at the ends of each acts in Episodes 2 and 3, mainly so that I remember what's going on, but so other people can also have something to look at so they can just very quickly catch up. Story-wise, it was okay, but I do have some gripes. The main one being that I never felt like Maya was a big threat. The Veiled Containment lore dumps that we got last year I thought were pretty entertaining, and Episode 1 felt like an extension of that stuff. I just never really felt like Maya was a super huge threat in game though. Maybe lore-wise, she's actually super threatening, but just playing through, I didn't really feel it that much, although it didn't help that we didn't even really see her until Act 3. Maya is interested in the idea of using the Echo to control the Vex and Radiolaria as a way to jumpstart her vision of a new golden age. Maya thinks humanity isn't really thriving, we're just kind of hanging on by a thread. So she wants to restore that old feeling of true advancement of humanity. But the in-game stuff that we experienced is way more dialed in on the Maya Chioma messaging. If the main plot we interacted with was that main storyline, with Chioma being more of a side plot, then maybe I would have felt differently, or maybe if Maya kind of showed off her power a bit more, maybe I would have felt a bit differently. That being said, she's like kind of spitting with her takes. Like, it's not that untrue. We are just kind of surviving out here, but the whole Chioma thing is what ultimately makes her the villain, because people being mean to other people makes me feel sad. Also, I was kind of hoping for a better finale sequence. We didn't get any kind of like a big boss fight, seeing her power, her throwing a bunch of Vex at us or something like that. So it's a bit anticlimactic there. Another thing is that I'm tired of love stories. Foot off the gas for the love stories for a little while. I get it. Saint and Osiris, they love each other, but they're not perfect. Maya and Chioma, they had their issues. Go to therapy. I need a break from the Saint Osiris love stuff. I want the next season to start with Ikora being like, yo, those dudes over there ain't cool. You got to shoot them in the face. And then I'm going to be like, bet. I'm going to go shoot him in the face. And then I shoot him in the face. I need a break from the drama, the theatrics of some of these characters. I want the game to go back to bad people being bad because they just want to take over the world. Or something like that for a little bit. I realize episode 2 is going to have some thick roll crow drama. That's fine. I'm assuming it's not going to be a love story. But I'm just tired of the lovers' quarrels for now. You know, let's take a break. I will say that even though we technically went around collecting things for Failsafe this episode, the main plot didn't feel like it was driven by the concept of go collect MacGuffins for the MacGuffin machine, and instead was based on, like, things happening, even if it wasn't that exciting all the time. So that was nice. Gameplay-wise, we actually got a good amount of stuff. Breach executable, 3 different battlegrounds, all delving deeper into the core of Nessus. The criminally underused, I can't even remember the name of it as I'm writing this, Enigma Protocol, and the new exotic mission in Encore. Nessus also underwent a physical transformation in at least one area of the map, but unfortunately it was only in episode content. It did not get permanently shifted for reasons I understand but do not like. I actually heard a good amount of praise for the battlegrounds from the community. I liked them as well. Bungie did a great job with making the spaces feel really big, which I enjoy, but also Nessus-y, but also still kind of fresh and modern. But they're ultimately an activity type that we are familiar with already, and these were executed in a good enough way that I don't have any real gripes, but no super insanely high praise. Breach executable, on the other hand, wasn't as much of a hit, consisting of seasonal activity-esque objectives spread out over a section of Patrol of Nessus, bringing back a Season of the Forge location as one of its final boss locations, which was a fun callback, I guess. Enigma Protocol was a timed mission where you needed to move quickly throughout a Vex-themed stage, completing objectives and hitting timer-increasing targets in order to clear the place. I thought it was fun, fast pace, had a fun little Sparrow section in there too, but you never really needed to do it outside of a couple of runs, which I think is unfortunate for such an activity that probably had a lot of design time go into it. It even rewarded weapons with double perks that aren't craftable, but because the weapons were mostly side grades or only the slightest optimizations, I didn't really care to go grind them out. It also brought back some pieces and color palettes from Season of the Splicer, which I know a lot of people like. I thought that was cool too. But yeah, you just never really needed to run it unless you wanted the title for the episode, but even that only took, like, what, a handful of tries at best? Unfortunately, I feel like this is the least that I engaged with episodic/season content in a very long time because of the checklist nature of the game. There were only a couple of craftable and or legendary weapons this season that I actually wanted the patterns for, maybe just the one. And knowing that I can just go to the vendor once a week and buy a red border for another year or whatever, I didn't really need to run or care about running the battlegrounds. I do enjoy them, but my apathy kicked in way faster than usual, and I'm not just going to run a battleground to then dismantle a bunch of stuff at the end. As we continue to power creep more and more, the suite of available weapons can only get so strong before everything just becomes a side grade. This season had a rocket sidearm to craft, the first craftable rocket sidearm, which everyone got immediately, and then the rest was as mid as my gameplay. The reprise Season of Dawn weapons had a couple good ones in there, but nothing you couldn't live without. The exotic mission got, I think, mostly good reviews as well, with my main gripe being that I wish things were a little more puzzly. Like, if you're gonna do puzzle mechanics, make me have to think about them just like a little bit more. In repeat playthroughs, like for the Catalyst for Choir of One, which is the weapon that drops from said exotic mission, it gets within the minimum bounds of what I would call puzzly, just slightly. I liked hearing the conversations between Chioma and Maya in the mission. Not that I was like, hooray, torture, but it just kind of gave their relationship in the episode a bit more context. Choir of One ended up being the first special ammo auto rifle in the game, and also ended up being a pretty strong weapon. It was announced that its total ammo count was bugged though. It's not supposed to hold that much ammo, but regardless, its damage is still pretty good. Multiple modes of fire. You can check out my full video on the weapon if you're looking for a review. That being said, Act 3 felt like it was entirely comprised of run the exotic mission. Okay, now do it again on Expert. Okay, next week you're going to run it again, and then run it again for the Catalyst, and then next week you're going to run it again for the mission. And it just kind of wore out its welcome. If it had just been the Catalyst stuff and the actual main story was a different thing going on, then I think it would have been fine. Feels like another situation similar to what Bungie spoke about in their big Year 11 2025 posts. The campaigns are the most expensive and least used part of an expansion. Exotic missions give off a similar vibe where they're expensive to create, but they want replayability so that people just don't play it once and then never touch it again. This time, it felt a bit too heavy-handed. Speaking of those posts, by the way, it was towards the end of Act 3 that Bungie started expanding on their plans for content after Episode 3, in which I have a full reaction to if you'd like to watch. The artifact this season was very big on prismatic because of Final Shape, a lot of very strong effects for prismatic related things, but in Acts 2 and 3, we saw additional rows unlocked that featured sniper and auto rifle based bonuses. Despite the artifact giving us insanely potent perks, it would probably be okay to let us have one additional perk, maybe two, lest I spend a minute or two rearranging all the perks on my artifact every single time I want to make a shift in my build. That, or you just make the artifact work with loadouts, but I don't know how feasible that actually is. Like, I don't know if it's that easy to build that feature without some reworking of systems. It might just be like a not super high priority thing for Bungie, or maybe it's just harder than we think it is. I don't know. The exotic weapon in the season pass was Red Death, and it feels mostly like the D1 version. The weapon's good, not overwhelmingly so. It's pretty defensively minded with its healing capabilities, and otherwise felt okay. I don't know if it made a huge splash in the meta, but it's certainly a fine weapon. Solstice of Heroes came and left without pretty much any fanfare at all, and most of the holiday events are in a big need of a revamp at this point to make them any kind of exciting. We also had the 10th anniversary of Destiny, and Bungie released a special Legend title for such an occasion. That being said, the 10th anniversary amounted to a set of free armor for each class, which is nice, and a terrible set of objectives to go complete in order to get the Legend title, none of which are truly deserving of the title of Legend. You had to do some Vanguard stuff, a couple of missions, and then do an awful Triumph in the Skywatch, which is the home of the Destiny 1 loot cave from the beginning of the franchise. You needed to collect 15 engrams in the Skywatch, which sounds fine until you realize that Bungie didn't tweak anything about enemy spawns or engrams in Skywatch. This resulted in a horrible grind for engrams, with people rotating in and out of the Skywatch in hopes of finding the Ogre boss for a slightly better chance at an engram. Bungie has said that they're buffing the situation surrounding this triumph. Maybe by the time this video comes out, it's already happened. Now, like, I see the vision here. You know, another cheeky nod to the loot cave of D1. But one, you literally already did that with Grasp of Avarice and did it really well. And two, the execution of this idea was so terrible to the point where I feel like no one even asked about it and someone just snuck it into the Triumph list without approval. I understand it's maybe not great optics right now to have a title based on maybe playing the entirety of the game as your 10th anniversary title, especially when half the content isn't even playable. But it would have been a lot more meaningful if there was some triumphs of actual substance to get such a title. Like, Become Legend has been the tagline for the franchise, and to have the Legend title be earned in this way is, I say, kind of a travesty. It is a travesty. It's not kind of. It is a travesty. Now, a running theory for the 10th anniversary is that Into the Light, which we got pre-Final Shape, is the 10th anniversary, but they had to pull a bunch of it forward so that people would have something to do before going into Final Shape, which does make sense. It is very celebratory in the way that it was built. Pantheon, Onslaught, the weapons, the shinies, all that kind of stuff. And if that is the case, then it's a little more understandable why the 10th anniversary celebration was so tame. Also, like, the layoffs and stuff like that. I honestly don't know what else really happened this episode. Like, going back to look at my channel, most of my content is focused on Final Shape things, some build videos, and very little about episode 1 itself other than the exotic mission and a review of the new exotic weapon. I took a break in between acts 2 and 3 after a pretty grueling 5-month stretch, and I posted some more fun content, but otherwise I don't feel like there's been a massive amount of things to cover, much less things that I want to cover. In my episode 1, Act 1 review, I said I wanted to wait for the full episode to release before coming to a final conclusion on how it was going to play out, you know, hoping that Bungie had a couple more tricks up their sleeve. People felt that episode 1 just felt like another Destiny season, which maybe would have been fine if Bungie hadn't said a bunch of buzzwords and phrases that were making it seem like episodes were really going to be this huge step forward for content delivery. While I didn't really feel like things were going to be very different in the post-season world, many people did, and were let down at the feeling that this was just another season, but spread out over a longer period of time with breaks in between. And it did end up feeling like that, for better or for worse. I feel like I gotta bust out Old Reliable yet again for this one, but episode 1, it hit all the boxes for a Destiny episode, for a Destiny season. It was fine. It was what I expected. But post-Final Shape fatigue has set in. The layoffs that happened soured a lot of people on Destiny and Bungie, and the feeling of this episode not feeling very different when it kind of felt sold as feeling different has also led to a lot of fatigue. And more Destiny just isn't enough for people anymore. I've been saying it for years. That wave of innovation that I'm hoping we see next year with Destiny kicking off a new era of their game, that is what's really gonna change people's minds going into the future. Also, just kind of thinking of this randomly, it is crazy to me that Onslaught has become irrelevant, despite it making complete sense why it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant because the loot chase within it is nothing remotely close to what it was with Into the Light, and Into the Light was the first time that I actually cared about grinding weapons in years. Please bring back shiny weapons, Bungie, please? Episode 2 and 3, I'm basically expecting to be on par with episode 1 in terms of quantity and quality. I don't have much reason to think otherwise. It feels like we're going to be in this waiting around mode while these episodes come and go. Not that I don't think there won't be anything good about them or anything, But if they're similar to episode 1, it's probably going to be more Destiny. Episode 3 might turn some heads, given the setting that it'll be taking place in, but I'm willing to be surprised, and I'm willing to eat my words if episodes 2 and or 3 end up being better than the average. But episode 1 just felt like another season. They probably should have just been called epilogues. Or maybe the marketing machine shouldn't have gone so hard on making it seem like they were going to revolutionize content delivery. I mean, it's easy to say in hindsight, I suppose. I've posted a lot about how I'm feeling about Destiny lately. I'll keep it brief. Just kind of bored. I ran dungeons for 5 hours for Triumph Score the other day, and that's the most motivated I've felt in a couple of months. I think that's probably what I'm going to be doing for the foreseeable future, just grinding out some Triumph Score, kind of like what I did a while ago with grinding out all the titles. But I'm already pretty close on maxing out the Triumphs that I don't actually mind pursuing, so after that, not really sure what I'll be doing. Obviously, we got episode 2 coming up pretty soon, so I'm going to cover that, but you know, I'm sorry that I haven't really been able to keep the momentum rolling on the channel, but the burnout plus not really having anything that I want to pursue on the game has kind of been the main culprit. And it does seem like people just want to hear about drama on the game way more than actual content on the game nowadays, so there's not a lot I can really do about that. Some of the most viewed things here recently have been drama and or news, but, you know, that's not really a huge surprise that, like, drama drives views, right? Before we go, I'm just going to plug my second channel real quick. If you play Deadlock or are interested in Deadlock content, I've been posting a ton of stuff over there. I've also been streaming it a ton, twitch.tv/Datto. Go check that out if you're into Deadlock. Otherwise, I think that's all for me. Episode 2 coming up soon. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.